Hello, everybody. My name is Denora Meyer, and I'm one of the assistant directors on the counseling team at the Career Center, and I specifically serve students at the College of Environmental Design. And this evening, we're going to be talking about networking, strategies and practice. So you'll have a chance to learn about strategies and also a chance to practice what you want to say, what you want to ask. And I hope you find it helpful. So to begin with, actually, I need to give you, let me see, how do I get out of here? Oh, let me stop share for a sec. And I'm going to share again and go to Mentimeter, which I have to find. Just one moment. Okay, just one moment. It's a matter of finding things. No, that's not where it is. Here we go. Okay, Mentimeter. Here we go. There we go. Sorry, thanks for your patience in getting this going. So I'm going to present. And what you need to do here, hopefully you have your phones with you. And so what you want to do is go to menti.com, www.menti.com, and use the code that's up here, 13711230, once you get to the website. And then you'll see the first question here. When you think of networking, what words, feelings, or images come to mind? And this can be anything that comes to mind, positive, negative, neutral, whatever comes to mind. Go ahead and type it in. It's anonymous, so it won't be associated with you specifically. And if anybody's having any trouble with this, please let us know and I will, oh, yay, okay. We got socializing, talking, work. Social event, fun, cold email, meetings, exchange ideas. And you can enter more than one image or term or anything that comes to mind. It's interesting how we have so far some neutral terms, proving yourself. Okay, so talking, work, meetings, exchange ideas, opportunity to get in touch with people in the industry. So these are relatively neutral. And then you have social event fun, that's more on the positive side. And then we have cold email and proving yourself. So that's a little bit more kind of, I wouldn't call it negative necessarily, but it's not as warm and fuzzy as social event or fun. Intimidating. Yeah. This is essentially what I'm kind of getting at, is that a lot of people are challenged, find it challenging to do networking, that it feels like an uncomfortable thing that they don't want to do or that they don't know how to do. So I just wanted to get a sense from you at first, what thoughts occur to you when you think about it. Thank you for completing that one. So we have a few more. I'm going to go to the next one. So this next question is, I have used LinkedIn to find and reach out to alumni. This is more objective, if you will. Okay, so we have 5 no's and 2 yeses. A little bit more on the no side, which is understandable, 6 in the no side. So I'd like to invite anybody who has used LinkedIn to find and reach out to alumni. Does anybody want to share what that was like for them? Any of the two people who said that they had done it before? You can put it in the chat, or you can just unmute yourself. And if you don't want to, you don't have to. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going. And I'm going to be showing you how to use LinkedIn. So that's part of this evening's program. And then the next slide asks whether you've used the Berkeley Career Network to reach out to alumni. Okay, you're not sure. Yeah, so we have 5 no's, 1 not sure. I don't tend to promote this as much, or I haven't, because we used to have Worcester Life, which some of you may know about, but it went away, and now we only have LinkedIn and, okay. Thank you, Gang, also for saying about talking about being afraid to be rejected. That's a good contribution, or it's a helpful contribution. I think that's a lot of what people feel. Sorry for the delay in getting to you about that. So we have mostly people who have not had experience with the Berkeley Career Network, and I'm going to show that as well. And then the next question, I'm comfortable with the idea of reaching out to alumni to connect for professional purposes. We have a Likert scale from strongly disagree to strongly agree. Where is your comfort level? Okay, so we have a mixture of not comfortable, essentially, yes, agree, strongly agree. So that's, and that's not surprising. And I guess I want to ask, if you are not comfortable, let me just offer some possibilities for why that might be the case. And if that holds true for you, you can put a thumbs up or put it in the chat. So I'm thinking that maybe you could be shy. You could just be sort of, not used to reaching out to strangers. What you think of as strangers. Maybe it's a question of a power differential. You feel like you're a student, there's a person's a professional, and so there's a sense of that they have more power than you, and that can make you feel uncomfortable. You may feel like as if you're using somebody, like you're using them for information, that it's not a two-way street. It might feel a little bit fake, like you can't really be yourself, or you're not really sure what to say about yourself or what to ask. So do any of these hold true for any of you? Does anybody want to let me know if any of these hold true for you? You can put it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself, or if there's a different one for you. Let's see, we have something in the chat. Okay. Oh, especially the last one. Okay. Not sure what to say. Okay, so some of these resonate with you. Just getting a sense of whether they make sense. These are sort of understandable if you don't have a lot of experience doing it. And I would say over time with practice, you're more likely to get comfortable. Is anybody willing to talk about what your mindset has been when you've reached out? In other words, what makes you feel comfortable about it? Is anybody willing to talk about that? And Bianca, you have feeling like I'm asking for a favor or using them. Yeah, so that agrees with what I'm saying. So if nobody really wants to respond to why, how you approach it, or, what enables you to feel comfortable doing it, that's fine. And the last one, I'm going to move on to the next question. This is the last question. And this is, I have an idea of how to present myself professionally to new people. Okay. Thank you, Angela, for sharing. People have a natural inclination to help others. So that to you is encouraging. It makes you feel like, you know, people will want to help me. So I think that is a very helpful perspective to have. You can have the sense of awkwardness, or you can have a sense of, well, actually, people are going to want to help me. So I think that's a very helpful perspective to have. And so we have a certain number of people who are comfortable presenting themselves or have an idea of how to present themselves, some who are neutral, more who are neutral, and a couple who don't really know how to do so. And we're going to be getting into these things too, just to get an idea of where you're coming from. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this. Okay, and what I'd like to do now is ask, does anybody have a networking story? I know you've been, and if you're willing to appear on camera, that would be lovely. It's going to be, when this is shared out, it will only have me and the presentation up there, so you won't even be showing up. So if you're willing to come on camera, or even if you're not willing to come on camera, if anybody wants to share an example of when you made a connection with somebody, you know, through networking that you know went well, or does anybody want to do that? Okay. If anybody decides that they'd like to, I know I'm not giving you a lot of time to decide. So if you decide that you'd like to, I welcome your chiming in, putting it in the chat, letting me know. So going back, now I want to move back into my PowerPoint. We've gone through the Mentimeter, and I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint, and we're going to move into talking about networking more fully. Okay. So I'm sharing my screen, and basically what we're talking about here is a hidden job market. You've probably heard of this before. You may not have heard of it. But the idea is that a lot of opportunities aren't even advertised necessarily, and that you can find out about them through networking. And I'm focusing on networking as a search for opportunities, as opposed to for career exploration, which is usually referred to as informational interviewing, where you talk with people about the work they do to help you decide if you'd like to do something similar. There's some overlap, but right here today, we're focusing on looking for opportunities. So this is a major way to learn about opportunities. There are different percentages connected with networking, but the highest I've seen is 70 to 85% of people who've gotten jobs, that networking has played a role in that for them. And because that is such a high percentage, you can see that it boosts your chances of finding a job that suits you. Whereas if you don't use it, you're missing out on a really important and useful strategy for finding opportunities. And this is a skill that you will develop and that can serve you throughout your work life. So right now, you may be anticipating, okay, I'm looking for that next opportunity, but when you're in a new role, your first role, it would be good to connect with people at your place of work, other people in similar places of work, to learn more about what they're doing, to find out what the organizations are like, that kind of a thing, where people are working, so that you can decide, maybe I'd like to try this other kind of an organization. So, and you can also talk with people about, let's say you have similar types of work and you have questions about how you could do your work better, then you don't want to talk to your manager, but you might want to talk to a friend or a contact who works somewhere else, and you can exchange ideas. Okay, so hopefully that point has been made. Let's see, I've just realized I should be presenting here. Okay, this makes it so much more exciting. Okay, so the benefits of networking early. So I strongly encourage networking early. Some of you may have been at the workshop that I did last week, the program that I did with my colleague Jing about job searching. And the alumni on the panel that we had emphasized the importance of starting to search early, and also networking being a part of that. So the good thing about this is that you can build relationships without the pressure of immediately having to apply for something. You can build your network over time, and then when opportunities arise, whether they're posted or not, you can learn about them early. And when you do networking, I mean, getting referrals to others, that's what networking is all about, making a connection, and then that connection can help you make more connections. And so it builds and builds and builds, and so that you develop this kind of community of connection where you can ask people for insights, for information, and you can also share. It becomes a two-way street. Former colleague of mine who retired last year, David, talks about net sharing. He really likes to emphasize that it's not like, it doesn't have to be this harsh-edged thing of like, gimme, gimme, gimme. It can be a mutually beneficial relationship where you're sharing with each other. So when openings are posted, you already have a connection. You might be able to reach out to somebody at that organization to learn more, get more of an insider perspective, and that person may also advocate for you eventually when you apply for an opportunity. So this is just sort of, why it's important, why it's a good idea to get into networking. And many people will say that they don't have a network. Well, I don't know anybody. Well, it's true that you maybe you don't have as much of a network as you eventually will, for sure. But there are people you do already know. You have friends, you have professors, you have family members. And even if your family isn't in the field that you're interested in, they may know people who know people, so it's kind of like you put the word out and then you find other people. So this gives you an idea of the kinds of places where you can find people. And one thing you can do is you can make a list of the people you already know. I'm not going to take time for that right now because we have a limited time for this workshop, but I would say that I would take some time when you have a chance to write down lists of people you know. So the alumni you're going to find through LinkedIn, through people you already know, maybe people who've graduated before you still have connections with them. Former employers, also great people to reach out to. So there are people where these are warm contacts where you have a connection already. And really what we're going to be talking about is building on those warm connections. It's not like it's not really cold calling when you're first starting out. The idea is because it's part of a network, you are kind of essentially tapping into people you already have a connection with, even if it's just by virtue of going to the same school. And so there's that commonality, and then you're jumping off from there. So that makes people even more likely to want to help you because of that commonality, what Angela was talking about that desire to help other people. Okay, moving on. So I want to just talk a little bit about the contexts where you can find people. So I had this slide in last week's program as well, because I think it kind of fits both. But so we have career fairs and internship fairs, and you can talk with people there, employers and alumni, and career connections events. I don't know how many of you have been to any career connections events, but those are where we have 15 to 20 alumni from a given industry come and they introduce themselves and they make themselves available to answer questions about their work. It's a great place to make those connections. And so those are structured events where you have a good number of people, and we've been doing them virtually. We'll see what's going to happen in the spring. What I was saying about, so those are group events, and then you have individual outreach, which we're going to talk about next. And this warm connection aspect that I'm referring to on the left is just what I was saying, that there is some kind of a connection already through Cal, or maybe through a family member, whatever it is, there's that warms it up so it's not completely cold. And what I want to do now is I'm going to point to a couple of resources, the LinkedIn Alumni Database, which we can take a look at, and then also the Berkeley Career Network. So I'm going to go to the LinkedIn database. Let's see how this works. And so let's see. How many of you have seen this before? Does anybody, can you raise your hands or put it in the chat? Oh yes, I've seen this. So this is the, okay, I see something in the chat. No, okay, so we have no's. So you haven't seen it. So I'm going to be showing it to you. Yay, perfect opportunity. I'm glad you're here. So this is, you can go to this site and the link is in the PowerPoint and I'll be sending that afterwards. And you can see here, it's UC Berkeley, there's 618,000 plus alumni, and that, fluctuates from day to day. You can indicate what range of year you want to look for people. In other words, people who have gone back a ways, or you can look for people who are more recent graduates or even current students. You could look at where they live. You can look at where they work. You can expand this so that it's, more expansive. And then importantly, because there's so many alumni, that's a lot to fish through. How are you going to find your people? So if you click on next, you can get to what they do, but especially helpful, I think, is what they studied. So I would love it if somebody would give me, whether in the chat or just by unmuting yourself, what a major that you would like me to look up. Okay, let's see. What do we have in the chat? Architecture. Great. Thank you, Angela. So, oh, and I forgot to mention, I will get back to this in a second. Thank you to the student groups that are supporting this event, that helped get the word out about this event. And my apologies for not mentioning it earlier. We have the AIAS Berkeley chapter. We have CED, CASA, and the undergraduate, CED Undergraduate Student Council, who helped promote this event. So thank you very much. And of course, I also want to mention Juan, who is helping me in the background. Thank you so much for being here, Juan, and helping me with this. It makes a big difference. So moving on, adding a field. So I'm putting in architecture. Okay, oh, look, it came up. And you can also see landscape architecture came up. So we have architecture, and then it's going to narrow the field, right? So look, 10,000, almost 11,000 people. That's significantly better, right? And let's say we're going to look, okay, so among these, you don't have to stick with these, this list of employers, but does anybody want to choose an employer that you're interested in, or choose a part of the country or even internationally that you'd want me to click on? Bay Area. Okay, so we got Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. Thank you. So we've narrowed that down to 45 plus, 4,500. And then is there, okay, we got another person in the chat comment, SOM. All right, then. So we go to SOM. Okay, is it here? Is it listed? Well, it's not listed here, but that doesn't mean it's not in here. So let's go over here in the key term SOM. Boom. Okay, Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill. Awesome. So you can then click on that and you have 14 people. That's a much more manageable number than 600,000 plus. You could probably even delete this SOM, but let's not bother with that for the moment. And then you can scroll down and look for people: junior architectural professional, architectural designer, principal. You can see all these people. So these are all people who you could potentially reach out to, depending on the year, the role, whoever you're interested in reaching out to. And let's say we started with Stephen, who graduated in 2017. You can see, if you have a LinkedIn profile, you've seen, a profile like this. People do and don't put, they vary as to how much information they put in their profiles, which, so if you don't have a lot of information, nothing wrong with going ahead and reaching out to somebody and saying, I really love to learn about what it's like to work at SOM. Could we find a time to do that? Okay, and he's actually just finished up at Harvard. So anyway, that gives you an idea of how to look on here. And one thing I would say, I don't know, I didn't ask how many of you are architecture versus SED versus landscape versus urban studies versus MCP, etc. But I want to tell you that for sustainable environmental design, the best way to find alumni is to type sustainable environmental design in this keyword search, because there is no specific major. There's sustainability studies, but it comes up, it could be more environmentally focused rather than building focused. that's a clue that I think will help narrow things for you. So does anybody have any questions about this right now? You can unmute yourself or put yourself in the chat.
Can you show how you got to see the people again?
Oh, sure. So I put in all these criteria and then I scrolled down and there they are. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, sure. Yeah. And then you can click on them and you can see a little bit. You can see if you have shared connections, that kind of a thing. But so this is, you know, this is probably the most common resource that I send to people or that I share with people because it's such a great way to find people. Okay, so let me stop sharing this for a sec. And then I'm going to get back to my PowerPoint. And okay, share once again. Okay, so then we have the Berkeley Career Network. So we just looked at, oh, let me just mention that professional associations, these are links to other sites, but professional associations are other places to look for people. You can also find groups on LinkedIn to join, and that's another context for networking. And I just listed a few. Whoops, I just listed a few. Sorry. I just listed a few on this page, but you can always search for others. And this Berkeley International Alumni Network is actually, you can look for people internationally. So that's another good resource. But what I'm going to do, we just took LinkedIn, and now we're going to focus on the Berkeley Career Network. And what I need to do now is, and share one more time, stop share, and go back over here, and go here, share one more time. There we go. Okay, so here we have the Berkeley Career Network. Can everybody see this? Let me know if you can't see it, please. And so you can do networking through here. Oh, now you can see. Okay, I don't think you could until now. So you can log into this and you get to, there's a bunch of categories. Let's see. So, okay, so I usually go to network, and then there are these different ways you can search: location, majors, industries, more filters. And so if you put in, I put in major oftentimes. So like, for example, if I put in urban studies and I hit apply, so we have people who are working who have urban studies backgrounds. So it's not as, you're not going to get nearly as many as you will with LinkedIn, but the nice thing is that you can, if you click on Matt, for example, you can see his whole, all about him. And of course you can look at him on LinkedIn, but you can, and there are others similar, so you could, that might help you too. You can message Matt. So there's less, here's a bio, there's less, it doesn't have the same limitation of when you're first reaching out on LinkedIn. There's such a limitation as to how many characters you have and everything, and that's challenging. And you can, if you hover over each of these, you can see that they have templates for career exploration, expanding your network, reconnecting if you haven't seen them for a while. It gives you sort of more support than LinkedIn for these things, although LinkedIn does have articles. So I'm going to stop sharing this. Or does anybody have any questions about this? I mean, I think it's really just a matter of kind of puttering around in it and seeing if you find people. And you could always look for somebody in here and look for them on LinkedIn and see if you get more information on LinkedIn, or if you see them on LinkedIn and you want to check out whether they're here, then you can message them directly, and it may be just easier to connect with them. Okay. So going back to, let's see, my PowerPoint. Okay. I just want to make a point here, which is very quick. do your research. So what I mean by this is, if you want to reach out to somebody and you want to ask them about themselves, about their work, see if you can do some research. So don't ask them things that you could find out otherwise. The same holds true for informational interviewing, but let's say you want to talk with somebody who's working at a particular organization. It's a good idea to look into that organization and read about it and try to get a sense of it, what its mission is and the kinds of people who work there. And the individual who you want to talk with, it's a good idea to read their LinkedIn profile, to get a sense of their background and really hone in on what you want to know from them, because you're going to potentially have limited time speaking with them. So I just wanted to emphasize, it's just like with any time you're going to be speaking with somebody, especially somebody you don't know, it's good to come prepared so that you can make good use of their time, and then they will you'll leave a positive impression. They'll be happy to be helpful because you've honed in on what you want to ask and what you already know. And as we're going, if any questions arise, please put it in the chat or unmute yourself. Okay, let's see. So you might be asking, how do I connect to people on LinkedIn? I don't know what to say. That is very common. It's like, it just feels awkward. So really, you don't have to say a whole lot when you're first connecting. This link that I have at the bottom of the page, there's you can see over here the parts that it covers. It's always good to have a photo. You might have it brief, talk about your connection, basically that you are also affiliated with Cal, tell them why you'd like to connect, and take responsibility for following up. So you can see here, this is less than 300 characters, which you're limited to that for LinkedIn if you don't have the premium version, which costs money. And you can see here's an example. Dear Sam, I'm a Cal junior majoring in urban studies, exploring opportunities in affordable housing. May have 20 minutes to ask you about your experience at Bridge Housing. I know you may be busy, so I'll try again next week if we haven't yet connected. Thanks, Sarah. So it's an initial message that's brief and gives the person enough of an idea of your background. It could be that there's more that you want to say, especially if the person agrees to connect, then you'll have a chance to maybe tell them more about yourself, but this is sort of an initial way to connect with somebody. Okay, so any questions about about anything so far? If anything arises, put it in the chat or unmute yourself. Sorry, I'm kind of moving kind of fast. Okay, so when you're going to be talking with somebody, they are going to want to know about you. And so you're going to want to be able to be ready to tell them a little bit about yourself. And the kinds of information you're going to want to be able to share is, your name, your year in school, what you're studying. That should be pretty easy. That's basic. And the next one would be, and it's not like it has to be in this order. It's not like you're going to be meeting somebody and saying, oh, wait, I have my elevator pitch or my spiel, and I'm going to tell you all of it, and then you can talk with me. This is the stuff that you want to be ready to talk about, because they may ask you questions that generate, that make you think, okay, this is a good time to share this, So, what is it you care about? What are you interested in? That's often a question you'll get from somebody who's in a field that interests you. So you want to be able to talk about that. And this language may seem kind of highfalutin, may seem kind of, that's kind of an old-fashioned term, but like, wow, what motivates me? I don't know. But I think that a lot of you probably have a strong sense of what you care about. So that's something you can write about, or you can say or write about, depending on how you're communicating with somebody. What you can do or have done, what are your skills? What experience do you have? What do you know about? And it's not, again, not like you're going to be reciting, this is, I know all these things. It's just that you are ready to talk about yourself. And in a sense, this is the kind of a thing that you would say at a job interview, and tell me about yourself. All of these things, frankly, work for both your your LinkedIn profile, as well as for tell me about yourself for a job interview. So you want to be able to summarize your experience. And it's, again, this is like a cover letter as well. So there's this commonality among all these things. It's sort of like a branding thing. What do I want people to know about me? And then there's I want, the type of position or responsibilities you're seeking, what kind of organization you want to work in. And, you know, I want an entry-level position in architecture or in sustainable, focusing on sustainable building or residential or interior architecture, interior design, or city planning, or whatever it might be. You know, just generally giving them an idea of the kind of opportunities you're looking for. Any questions about this? So these are kinds of questions that you might want to ask at a networking kind of in a networking context where specifically you're looking for work. And the first one is kind of more general. You know, what have you found to be effective strategies for looking for work? You know, just general advice for the job search or the internship search. And then you can get more focused in on what about this organization? What do you like most about it? What kinds of projects could I potentially get involved in? You can see this list. What's asking about the hiring process, what hiring managers look for in candidates, and the skills and experience they would want you to emphasize that they would be most important to them. So you can imagine how this would be helpful if you eventually found a job at this organization that you already know this information. You already know, oh, this is what they look for. This is what I should emphasize in my cover letter and on my resume. Granted, in a job description, there may be a certain amount of detail that will help you, but job descriptions can also be very general. Not, you know, they don't give you specific, they can be very general so that you have to fill in the blanks. And this is a way for you to have that inside information. And also, well, you always want to ask for anybody else they might refer you to ask for advice or for insights. And there's something else I wanted to say. Let's see. I can't remember what it was. It went in my head and out the other side. But the point is that having this information will help you when a job opportunity comes up. So does anybody have any questions about these questions? Okay, I'm going to keep going. And if something comes up for you, you can just write it down. You can put it in the chat. And this is just an example, a set of examples. So, you know, here's somebody saying, you know, my name is Jamie Lee. I'm a junior, majoring in architecture, minoring history of art. What do I care about? You can just see a few examples here. And what I wanted to do with this right now, actually what I realized is I want to put you in breakout rooms for you to start to share with each other, just to practice a little bit informally. And I urge you not to leave because I know people tend to leave. Oh, breakout room, gonna go. This is a chance for you to just, in a relaxed fashion, write down some things that you want to convey, and maybe in a few questions you might have for a potential person that you'd be reaching out to. So what I'd like you to do is take out a piece of paper or be on your laptop or phone or wherever it is that you like to write things down, or just think about it for a moment or for a minute. And, you know, I think introducing yourself in terms of name, year in school, major, that comes pretty naturally. You might want to jot down a few bullet points about what you care about, what your experience is, even just very brief, what you're looking for, and any questions you have. And like there might be even just one question. So take just a minute to write down anything or type anything that that you think you want to say very quickly. And you can just use the prompts of I am, I care about, I can, I want, I'd like to know. And so when we move into the breakout rooms, and I see people leaving, don't leave. You can have a chance to actually, Juan, can you just put two people per breakout room?
So 2 people per breakout room?
Yeah, do you mind doing that?
Yes, let me give me a second. Let's see. So
Thanks.
we like, let's see.
So everybody, what I'm going to do is I see people leaving, don't leave. There's more to this presentation. We're just going to do this quickly. This is going to be like, less than 5 minutes. It won't be torturous. It'll be fun. I want you to relax and just share 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sentences, 6 sentences with each other.
All right, opening the rooms.
Okay, and then we're going to call
I'm
you
going to
back.
stop recording as well, if that's okay.
Okay, good. So we're going to bring you back in about